Myself and Geoff are going to be talking about some recent work we've been doing on stone architecture and sort of portable stone artifacts associated with, I should say, burial rites and ceremonies in Tonga. Tonga is a group of islands in the Southwest Pacific, first settled in about 800 BC by the Lapita cultural complex, but much of what you'll be hearing about today mainly refers to the last 1,000 years, from between 1000 AD and 1800 AD, and that's when Tongan influence was really quite strong in the Western Pacific, and there's even links to far-flung areas such as Tikopia and even Tahiti in the east. The main island of Tongatapu, where probably most of the people lived and the political centre of the Tongan polity was based, is a limestone island. So lots of any stone that was volcanic was imported, most commonly from a group of volcanic islands that make up the western edge of what's now the nation state of Tonga, with the eastern islands being predominantly limestone. So we have a variety of different stone types, and the different types of uses sort of mix and match them with coral limestone, with coral slabs, beach rock slabs, and limestone being used to create kind of the larger architectural features, and volcanic pebbles being used more for kind of material artifacts. There are some kind of ritual objects and geological formations that we're not really going to be touching in this. We're going to be mostly focusing on the rituals of life and death, and we're going to start with the rituals of life by talking about the first royal compound in Tonga at Heketa. This is traditional history in Tonga marks this location as the site of the first capital of the Tongan state, and it's also where we first start to see stone architecture being used at a large scale. And so I mentioned the links between the Stonehenge of Britain and the Pacific Stonehenge. This monument here, the Ha'amonga Maui, is commonly referred to in Tonga as the Stonehenge of the Pacific. There's quite a good paper out sort of debunking a lot of the astronomical claims, and we can see that the construction of the lintel at the top is also quite different to Stonehenge, but it's undeniable that the trilithon formation of the stones does resemble other kinds of monuments. So the Ha'amonga is the main feature of this area, but we've also got stone-faced platforms behind, or what's now behind, but would have been part of the complex. We've also got a very large standing stone that sits on a lined platform that's marked by the red line in the bottom right. The traditions state that the king at the time, Tuita Tui, was concerned about assassination attempts and erected this stone to sit against, to protect his back from would-be assassins. And he also carried a big stick with him to beat off those who would aim to do him badly. So leaning back into the rituals of life, what strikes me about this complex is that most of these structures are sort of secular day-to-day structures that political, I should say, councils, deliberations were occurring on these structures. And this is going to be in contrast to what Geoff will explain later, where at the new capital at La Paja, the use of stone changes quite significantly, where they're mostly used in a burial context. And see that at this site of Hecate, you see the slight changes occurring with this. The capital moved, and it's quite notable being the only mortuary architecture at this site, and probably forms a good segue into handing over to Geoff, who will now talk about the new capital of La Paja.
All right, thanks, Philip. So the initial capital was quite small, both in terms of the architecture and marked by these kind of day-to-day houses, sitting platforms and so on that living chiefs would utilize in the business of actually running the Tongan state. At the end of Hecate, a small tomb was built, a step tomb, and then that site may have in fact been abandoned. And then the capital seems to have moved to the place called La Paja, or Mua, meaning the center. Then there's an incredible explosion of both construction and monumental architecture going on. You can see from the map here that there's quite a large area. There's a lot of structures which are all tombs. They're areas of reclaimed land that extend out to the lagoon with canoe docks, harbour areas, fortifications, roads, and so on. And this whole area really starts to expand in size. It covers more than 50 hectares and really marks a quite massive increase in the investment of labour and chiefly centralisation of resources, including labour. Next slide. So the largest tombs of the paramount, who was known as the Tui Tonga, Tui meaning lord or lord of a place. So Lord of Tonga means the leader of the whole archipelago. So Tonga is a little bit unusual in that we have a leader not just of a segment of an island or of an island itself, but of an entire archipelago. Now these tombs of the Tui Tonga and his family are quite large. They have wall lengths sometimes longer than around 50 meters, and they have a typical stepped form with, made of 3 to 5 levels. The formation utilizes, again, a kind of a sea rock, either a carbonate beach rock or a reef limestone in rare cases. And these slabs of beach rock, which are taken from the tidal zone, are used to hold platforms of soil and create this very distinctive shape. So the oldest tombs were made about 1300 AD, and the last one was probably made just a decade or so before Captain Cook's visit to Mua in 1777. So these slabs are cut with stone tools on beaches, on offshore islands, or off the coast of Tongatapu, the main island. And clearly some were transported over the sea, and must have been difficult because the largest slabs are longer than 7 meters in length, and must have taken something like one of the large double canoes to transport them. Okay, so the tombs preserve the connection with the old Tongan, what is known now as the pagan Tongan belief system, and the people and chiefs who built them. Here's a couple of examples of architectural features which do that. We have hala stones, which are known as gateway or paths, and they're supposed to be an entrance point for the soul of the Tui Tonga to move to the underworld of Poluto. and this is where the god Hikaleo lived, and Hikaleo was the main deity of the Tui Tonga. There are also name stones which are named after a chiefly title, or preserve that chiefly title, or the rock has a descriptive name which is passed on through a clan, presumably because that clan extracted the rock. So there's a rock here on the tomb Pai Pai o Kalea, which is 8.3 meters long and in fact extends under the ground. It's had land reclaimed around it, hacked out of the reef limestone with stone adzes, and its name is Maka, which means stone that turns the corner, and so that name is used by individuals from that clan in Lapaha today to preserve presumably the removing and quarrying of that rock. Next slide. Other aspects of ritual activity that we can see within these carbonate phase stone tombs, and as Geoff was saying, we have to remember that the tombs, when they were first quarried, would have preserved a very white reflective surface. It is no longer there, but it would have been quite a startling white contrast. And also made of the beach rock facings were these beach rock vaults into which the body of the Tui Tonga or close family members were put. There's a number of rituals that went on. There are stories about human sacrifice, also of the personal attendant or the warrior who would protect the Tui Tonga in life, being in front of his door. When the Tui Tonga died, this person may be laid out on a slab to protect the Tui Tonga in the afterlife. And in fact, a very minor tomb that we investigated did have the body of a fairly young and very robust male put on the vault lid on it. Okay. So other evidence of ritual activity concerns the royal undertaker clan, who are known as the Ha'atufunga or the Nimatapu. Many tombs, quite a few tombs, bear engraved slabs, which have on them similar designs to the bark cloth known as tapa. There's a special kind of bark cloth, which is known as Ngatu Uli, or the black bark cloth, which is associated both with chiefs and funerals. Now, bark cloth is made by women, but the decorated slabs were probably made by this undertaker clan, the Ha'atufunga. The photo shows the engraved slabs, and which may be referencing displays of traditional textiles during mortuary events such as tomb completion or reuse. And we can see in this photo over here, a later photo from the 19th century, with the Ha'atufunga sitting on a decorated tomb after it's been used. Perhaps the most important, sorry, could we just go back?
Sorry.
Most important of these mortuary rituals, though, was the use of volcanic pebbles, which are known as kili kili, that were placed on top of the vault to mark the end of public mourning and the many restrictions which accompany a royal death. Today, this ceremony happens after 100 days in a ceremony known as the Hifo Walanu Kili Kili. Now, the Undertaker clan, they organised for these andesite pebbles to be collected from a volcanic island and returned to Mua, where the clan sorts them to size, shape, and then they're washed in a scented oil before being placed on the tomb, typically in a rectangular mound or a stepped mound shape over the vault. We were able to geochemically source kili kili from quite a few of these burial sites, including all of the largest tombs, and the pebbles all come from an active volcanic island of Tafua. Now, one tradition mentions that Tafua was an entry point to the spirit world of Paluto, which, as I said before, was ruled by the god Hikaleo, who was the patron deity of the Tui Tonga. So what we can say from knowing both the age of the tombs as well as the presence of kili kili from Tafua, it suggests that we have the presence of hereditary ritual specialists and of the Ha'atufunga clan, probably for some 700 years. Next slide. And just to finish here, I just want to note that in Tonga, stone is used to display and separate different types of social space. You have raised tomb structures, which denote the high status. In Tonga, no person should be higher than the Tui Tonga or the paramount chief, both in life and in death. As they derive from the gods, they are semi-divine. The stone vault placed in the center of tombs, surrounded by coarse beach sand and coral gravel, keeps the body or the sacred body of the chief from being polluted by the earth, which is considered Noah, which in Polynesian is the opposite of tapu. So Noah, kind of everyday or domestic, and tapu, pertaining to the sacred. Other components of a tomb memorialize a personal link with individuals, while placement of the kili volcanic pebbles on the grave mark the end of the mourning restrictions which are observed by the close family and the public. Sorry, one more slide. So in terms of networks and mobility, ritual burial sites made of stone are just one part of the extensive system which formed the Tongan Maritime Empire. But the tombs and the use of stone are notable for the large quantity of resources and the corvée labour that the tombs and the burial rituals consumed, and they're quite significant for understanding both participatory networks within the Tongan state, but also the rituals of elites that have carried on into the present day. That's all.